welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. Now, Dick Grayson was the first ever character to take on the mantle of Robin. Who was the last character to take on the mantle of Robin? Was it A, Tim Drake, B, Damian Wayne, or C, Stephanie Brown? I'll reveal the answers at the end of the show, but for right now, let the ranting begin.
What you talking about, Willis?
All right, the first thing I want to talk about is the passing of Casey Kasem. He passed away this past Sunday. And one thing about him, we welcomed him in our homes, if not one way, then another way. You see, he was the longtime host of America's Top 40 and Casey's Top 40, and he had one of the greatest radio voices. Well, really, one of the most distinct voices ever, much less radio voices. I mean, he was a great person, great DJ. He was just awesome beyond words. And another way that we welcome him into our homes is he did many voiceovers for several cartoon characters. He played the voice of Cliff Jumper and Blue Streak on Transformers. He played the voice of Alexander Cabot III on Josie and the Pussycats. But most of all, we all know him to play the voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo. And I tell you, he's going to be sorely missed. And if there are any family members, if any of his children are watching this, if any of his close friends are watching this, even if it is his wife who's watching this, and please don't fault me for this, because this is about Casey. But I just want you all to know that my thoughts and prayers are with you. All right, the second thing I want to talk about is the passing of Tony Gwynn. He played his entire Major League Baseball career with the San Diego Padres from 1982 to 2001. He had a .338 batting average, 3,141 hits, 135 home runs, 1,138 RBIs. Oh, for all of you who don't know, RBI stands for runs batted in. He was an 8-time National League batting champion, a 15-time All-Star, a 5-time Gold Glove Award recipient, 7-time Silver Slugger Award recipient. He won the Roberto Clemente Award in 1999. He has his number 19 retired in San Diego, and in 2007, which was 6 years after he retired, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that was his first time being voted on. He didn't have to wait like anyone else. The first time he was on the ballot, he was in. After he retired in 2001, he had been a baseball analyst, and he was also the head coach at his alma mater, San Diego State University. And he died from battling salivary gland cancer. And Tony Gwynn Jr., if you're watching this, if any family members are watching this, if anyone in the San Diego Padres organization or anyone at San Diego State University is watching this, my thoughts and prayers are with you all. That's why I'm wearing this San Diego Padres cap, because I wanted to pay respect to him that way. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is the movie 22 Jump Street. Now, I'm not going to give anything away like I did with X-Men Days of Future Past a few weeks ago. I'm not gonna. All right. First off, I just want to say I'm sorry for doing that. Charge it to my head, not to my heart. But I'm not going to give anything away about 22 Jump Street. All I'm going to say is it was a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it, because if you thought the first one was hilarious, you haven't seen anything yet. All right, last thing I want to talk about. Okay, last Saturday when I got episode 27 on uploaded on YouTube and the links posted on Facebook and Meet Me. Usually, whenever I do that. Whenever I upload an episode and then post links to them, I text people. I text people to let them know that I put it up, and somebody who no longer watches the show, well, they told me that they told me don't be offended. He said this, and I quote, "Don't be offended." But I stopped watching it. I was a little upset about that, probably for about a good 5 minutes. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to let the opinion of one person speak for everyone. Because even though I don't get a lot of views for these episodes, I'll admit there are some folks who think that I should do it. My family thinks I should continue doing it. But the most important thing is I think I should keep on doing it. So I'm not going to let the opinions of someone hinder me from doing the show. I will do this show until I am physically no longer able to. And that's the truth of it. Okay, that's all I want to talk about. This week, DC versus Marvel. It's Plastic Man versus Mr. Fantastic. Let's go.
Are you man enough, big and bad enough? Are you gonna let them shoot you down when the evil...
Welcome back to DC vs. Marvel. This week, it's Plastic Man vs. Mr. Fantastic. Plastic Man's powers and abilities are malleable physiology, density control, elasticity and plasticity, size alteration, shapeshifting, superhuman agility, superhuman strength, color change, invulnerability, regeneration, telepathic immunity, immortality, ultrasonic detection, and rubber organs. Mr. Fantastic has the power of elasticity. He has the ability to convert his entire body into a highly malleable state at will, allowing him to stretch, deform, and reform himself into virtually any shape. Mr. Fantastic has been observed as being able to utilize his stretching form in a variety of offensive and defensive manners, such as compressing himself into a ball and ricocheting into enemies, or flattening himself into a trampoline or a parachute to rescue a teammate. He is also able to shape his hands into hammer and mace-style weapons, and concentrate his mass into his fist. All these fists used to require extreme concentration. However, due to mental and physical training, he can now perform these feats at will. The most extreme demonstration of Mr. Fantastic's powers is at one point he was able to increase his size and mass to thing-like proportions, which also increased his physical strength. Who would win? It would start off physical, with each one stretching themselves around one another. It would be a practical stretching contest. Then Plastic Man would start using his skills from his former gangster days, and Mr. Fantastic would start thinking scientifically. Mr. Fantastic fires a molecule splitter at Plastic Man, causing him to disintegrate. Mr. Fantastic wins. But wait! Plastic Man is immortal. He suddenly reforms, jumps 400 feet in the air, shapeshifts into a massive anvil, and crushes Mr. Fantastic. Plastic Man wins. That concludes this week's segment of DC vs. Marvel.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's segment of DC vs. Marvel. I have another one up next week. Coming up, we have Comicology 101 on Green Lantern John Stewart, part of the Green Lantern series. Class is now in session.
Welcome back to the Comicology 101 Green Lantern series. This week, I'll be talking about John Stewart. John Stewart was an architect and U.S. Marine veteran who was selected by the Guardians of the Universe as Hal Jordan's backup Guy Gardner was seriously injured in a disaster. Although Jordan objected after seeing that Stewart had a belligerent attitude to authority figures, the Guardians stood by the selection. Jordan complied, recruited, and equipped Stewart with the standard uniform and power ring. To Jordan, Stewart's first mission began badly with the assignment of protecting a racist politician, and Stewart took advantage of averting an accident to embarrass him in the process. However, Stewart soon proved his worth when an apparent African-American assassin shot at the politician, but Stewart refused to intervene with Jordan to move in response to the attack. Stewart had good reasons for this apparent dereliction of duty when he stopped a gunman from killing a police officer outside the parking lot of the event while Jordan was pursuing a decoy. When Jordan confronted Stewart for his actions, Stewart effectively explained the situation of the ruse and the fact the politician staged it for political advantage. With that adventure, Jordan concluded that Stewart was an excellent recruit after all. For some time, Stewart occasionally filled in for him as a Green Lantern when Jordan was unavailable, including some missions of the Justice League. After Jordan gave up being a Green Lantern, the Guardians selected Stewart to full-time duty. Stewart filled that role for some years, during which he married Katma Tui, the Green Lantern on the planet Korugar. After Tui's murder, Stewart became the administrator of the Mosaic World, a patchwork of communities from multiple planets that had been brought to Oa by an insane Guardian. From this position, Stewart eventually ascended to Guardianhood, which he later relinquished. After a brief period of paraplegia, he became Green Lantern once again, and became a member of the JLA. Stewart was also a member of the Dark Stars for some time. He regained his power ring during Kyle Rayner's tenure as Earth's main Green Lantern, and remained his backup for years, until Hal Jordan was resurrected after his spirit was freed from Parallax and the Spectre, after which Jordan took over Rayner's role, as Rayner went to serve as an administrative position in the Green Lantern Corps in Oa. In the subsequent restructuring of the Corps, each sector now has 2 Green Lanterns assigned to it, and Stewart and Jordan now share responsibilities for Earth Sector 2814. After the dissolution of the Justice League in the aftermath of the Infinite Crisis event, and the destruction of their Moon Watchtower headquarters, Stewart began playing a larger role in metahuman affairs, working with many former Justice Leaguers. John was on Oa with fellow Earth Lanterns Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, and Kyle Rayner to discuss the new threat of the new Sinestro Corps with the Guardians. Kyle was abducted by a yellow power ring, and the Sinestro Corps storms Oa in a surprise attack, killing thousands of Green Lanterns. Badovian, a sniper of the Sinestro Corps, had been taking out several Green Lanterns 3 sectors away, and John uses his ring to create a scope sniper to find Badovian and shoots him, taking out the sniper. Because Green Lantern's power rings are not allowed to kill, John most likely injured Badovian. When John, Hal, and Guy attempt to recharge their rings using the central power battery, they set off a booby trap by the Sinestro Corps and were transported to Cord. Parallax, who had infected Kyle, forced John to relive the moments where he failed to save Xanshi. He and Guy were freed by Hal and the Lost Lanterns. While Ion was recovered by the Lost Lanterns, the Earth Lanterns returned home to get backup, only to discover the Sinestro Corps were about to attack Earth. John went to Coast City to help battle Parallax, but found that Parallax had absorbed Hal as well. He held off Parallax long enough for Guy to return with the painting that Kyle's mother painted, and used it to snap Kyle out of Parallax's control. The painting and Hal's words restore Kyle's will, and he breaks free from the fear entity. Ganthet and Sayid appeared to have imprisoned Parallax into Hal, Guy, John, and Kyle's 4 separate batteries. After Ganthet and Sayid warned the Earth Lanterns about the Blackest Night, John and Guy went to New York to help Earth's heroes and the Green Lantern Corps to battle the Sinestro Corps. He and Guy came up with the idea to use Warworld as a grenade, which badly injured the Anti-Monitor, who was then thrown into space by the traitorous Superman Prime. John took Guy to Saranic Natu in hopes that she could stop the Sinestro Corps sentient virus, the Spotless, which had infected Guy Gardner. Saranic used the Green Lantern smallpox virus, Leslie Pond, who stopped the Spotless. After the war, John hung out with fellow Earth Lanterns at Hal's family's apartment in Coast City. John was asked by the Guardians to join a new division within the Corps, the Alpha Lanterns, but John refused. John was later one of the Green Lanterns chosen to escort Sinestro to Korugar. However, the escort team was ambushed by the Sinestro Corps and the newly formed Red Lantern Corps. The Green Lanterns were left to die in space after Atrocitus captures Sinestro, but they are saved by St. Walker, a member of the Blue Lantern Corps. John was infected with the rage of the Red Power Rings and attacks St. Walker. Walker then uses his blue ring to create a construct of Katma Tui, who heals John and calmed him down by showing him a vision of himself flying with Katma. He told Kilowog that he would see Katma again and that the universe told him so. John stopped the Guardians from attacking Hal with green energy in an attempt to destroy a blue power ring that was attached to Hal. He witnessed Larfleeze making demands to the Guardians. John is one of the Green Lanterns who accompany the Guardians to battle Larfleeze. While battling the Orange Lanterns, John is saved by Fatality. Fatality tells John to let go of his grief over Xanshi's destruction and then leaves. After the battle with Agent Orange, they have a discussion about their hopes. John goes to Coast City with Hal, Guy, and Kyle on the anniversary of Superman's death, which has been declared a national holiday for fallen heroes. The 4 Earth Green Lanterns attend a parade in honor of those killed in Mongol's attack. John later leaves to visit Xanshi after the parade ends. When John visits the grave of the planet Xanshi, thousands of black rings fly into the planetary debris and reconstitute the entire planet. Xanshi itself then speaks to John, telling him this, and I quote, "I can help you save them." End quote. Against his better judgment, John descends into the planet's surface. Once reaching the surface, John finds himself confronted by Katma Tui and the entire population of Xanshi as Black Lanterns. While battling them all, Katma tries to weaken John by claiming that he caused the planet's destruction. However, John, spurred on by Fatality's words, says he wasn't the cause of it all and successfully fights off the Black Lanterns. After escaping Xanshi's atmosphere, John realizes that the planet is headed for Earth, along with every Black Lantern in the universe, and contacts Hal, warning him of the impending threat. John is almost overwhelmed by Black Lanterns, but is saved by 7 Corps united against Nekron. John leads a team made up of Kilowog, Fatality, and other members of the 7 Corps to destroy the reanimated Xanshi. John finally makes peace with losing his wife Katma and failing to save Xanshi. He and the other Lanterns destroy the core of the planet, which was made up of 1,000 black power rings. With Xanshi destroyed, Nekron and Black Hand feel an intense pain just as Sinestro is revived by the entity. John is seen on Oa, supervising the demolition of the buildings left in ruins after the Black Lanterns' attack and planning the reconstruction. He is called suddenly into the Guardian's chamber, where they order him to join Alpha Ladder Boudica in a mission to robot planet Grinda, Stell's homeworld, where the communications cease abruptly without explanation, and Lantern Stell and the population are missing. John agrees and departs with Boudica. After arriving on the planet, the two confirm the Guardian's reports. The entire population mysteriously disappeared. John asks Boudica if something of her old self remains despite being turned to an Alpha Lantern after she asks him why he refused to join the Alpha Lanterns. Boudica responds that only her changes are physical, and that she still has her former personality. The two discover what seems to be a Green Lantern sector house that, according to Buddha, isn't registered. After they entered inside, they discover 2 Green Lanterns. One of them tells John he must flee from the planet immediately. Suddenly, Boudica turns against John and attacks him. And despite John fighting back, he's surrounded by more rogue Alpha Lanterns and is defeated. It's later revealed that the Alpha Lanterns have begun a revolt against the rest of the Corps, allied themselves with Hank Henshaw, the cyborg Superman, and took control of Grinda to use the planet as its hidden base to turn Green Lanterns into Alpha Lanterns. John Stewart is last seen wounded and bleeding, being taken to Hank Henshaw by Boudica. The cyborg Superman begins the cosmic surgery to turn John into another Alpha Lantern. Before starting the operation, however, Henshaw connects Stewart's brain to his memories in order to see why he was turned into a cyborg. He also reveals to John that after being resurrected by the Manhunters after the Sinestro War, he returned to Earth in the middle of the blackest night and pled to the Black Lanterns, among them are the former crew of the space shuttle and Nekron, to kill him, only to discover that because he did not have a physical heart, he was invisible to them. Angered for being ignored by death itself, the cyborg Superman encountered the mysterious hooded stranger who had abducted the entities of the emotional spectrum. He convinced that Ganthet has the power and knowledge to turn Alpha Lanterns into normal beings again. John realizes that Henshaw organized the revolt of the Alpha Lanterns with the sole purpose to attract Ganthet to the planet Grinda and forced him to turn Henshaw into a moral being again. Kal and Soranik burst in the lab and manage to rescue John, but Ganthet is captured. They hide in a cave where John informs them about the cyborg Superman's true plan. They also discover the missing robot inhabitants of the planet trapped in the depths of a cave by Henshaw. Mounting a defense, they battle against Henshaw and his forces, destroying the cyborg's body. Henshaw leaps into Boudica's body, but her consciousness managed to defeat his, seemingly destroying him. John later joins Kyle Rayner and Ganthet in a mission to the antimatter universe to save Soranik Natu. On their return to the matter universe, John and the others are affected by the return of Parallax to the central power battery by Krona. The previous experience with Parallax allows John, Kyle, and Ganthet to escape its control, but they are forced to fight their fellow Green Lanterns. Affected by Parallax's fear powers, John and Kyle are forced to remove their rings and escape through Oa's underground. They then meet up with Guy and Hal, who has the rings of the other Corps leaders. John initially chooses Larfleeze's orange ring, but is convinced by Hal to use Indigo One's ring instead due to the debilitating effect of the orange ring of the wearer's psyche. When the corrupted Green Lanterns attack, John has difficulty channeling the various core powers through his ring. Things are made worse when Mogo joins the attack. When Hal and Guy go to remove Parallax from the central power battery, John and Kyle attempt to free Mogo from Krona's control. On the way, John attempts to stop the flow of tainted rings sent by Mogo, but fails. As he and Kyle head for Mogo's core instead, they discover a residual Black Lantern energy around it. John absorbs the Black Lantern energy along with the Green Lantern energy and regretfully uses it to destroy Mogo. In the fallout, the two group with Hal, Guy, and Ganthet using the full power of the emotional spectrum to crack open the battery and release Parallax. Their job done, the Lanterns regain their original green rings in preparation for the final confrontation with Krona. Following the war's conclusion, John assists a new Green Lantern from Sector 282, selected during the period where Mogo was under Krona's control, in adjusting to the power of his ring despite the possibility that she will not be allowed to keep it, assisting her in halting a war taking place in her sector, the original Lantern for that sector having died during the war. When John is able to help the two sides find a peaceful resolution to their conflict, the new student reflects that, despite John's reputation after destroying two worlds, she now knows that nobody can regret that action more than John himself. The DC Universe heavily changed its continuity following the events of Flashpoint in 2011. This was part of an effort to make storylines more accessible to newer readers beginning with the New 52. This new timeline combines elements from the DCU, Vertigo Universe, and Wildstorm Universe while drastically changing the origins and histories of characters. After Hal's expulsion and Kyle's departure, John Stewart joins Guy Gardner and others in investigating recent attacks in a different sector of space, which are revealed to be the result of an old Guardian experiment. At one point, John is forced to kill another Lantern who was about to give in to torture and reveal the access codes of the Owen Defense Network. John is approached by the Alpha Lanterns to arrest him for the murder of the Green Lantern member. He is found guilty for this crime and sentenced to death. However, Guy Gardner and the other fellow Lanterns free him before the execution, resulting in the destruction of the Alpha Lanterns when the Green Lanterns refuse to allow John to be executed. During the fight, the Alpha Lanterns, revealing to the reader that the Guardians set up the events as part of their plans to destroy the Corps, realize that their powers are corrupted in the Judgment and kill themselves. During the Rise of the Third Army storyline, John was contacted by the Guardians who state that Mogo's remains appear to be moving and that they've come to the conclusion that Mogo is trying to reform and assign him to track it. While tracking the Mogo fragment's destination, he is discovered by Fatality, who is seeking a sundered love in danger. And there you have it, Comicology 101 on Green Lantern John Stewart.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the Green Lantern John Stewart Comicsology 101. Next week will be Kyle Rayner, and it will be the conclusion of the Green Lanterns Comicsology 101 series. All right, let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
First up are Wolverine and the X-Men issues 4 and 5. Now, in the previous issues, there have been a lot of skeletons that they've been hiding in the closet, and a whole bunch of other revelations. It was revealed that Wolverine is responsible for the birth of Apocalypse. That's kind of weird, doesn't it? Wolverine is responsible for Apocalypse. But then if you went to see X-Men Days of Future Past, that in a way that doesn't exactly, it's not exactly surprising. And then also Quentin Quire decides that he realizes how unruly he can be and decides to join up with Cyclops' team. Or did he? Up next are Hulk issues 3 and 4. Now let me tell you, in the first two issues, Bruce Banner ends up getting some emergency brain surgery to get the bullets out of his head that after he was shot at the end of Indestructible Hulk number 20. And in this time, while he was still on the operating table, the person running the anesthetic that had decided not to give him any more anesthesia, and then he hulks out. But then when he reverts back to Bruce Banner, he pretty much has to learn how to do everything again. He's no longer smart, and he ends up getting adopted by these elderly couple from Kentucky, and they take him in as their own. But then he hulks out again after one of the people saw that he had a toy airplane, and after that person grabbed it and tore it up. So after reading this, I really don't think he's going to be Bruce Banner again. If he is, I'll be surprised. Up next is Nova number 18. Now, in the previous issue of Nova, he ends up back on Earth, and then he gets this nice present for his mom. It's some kind of foreign rock from another planet. But then his mom makes him throw it away makes it get rid of it or throw it out in space because she doesn't feel that it's safe, and she thinks it's radioactive because it was burning up the grass. And then meanwhile, later his younger sister Kaylin ends up putting on the Nova mask, and she accidentally blasts a hole right through their wall. And it's pretty much the routine day for Sam Alexander. And then later he ends up going on the moon just to find out that Uatu was murdered. And speaking of Uatu being murdered, up next are Original Sins numbers 3 and 4. Well, yeah. Original Sins numbers 3 and 4. And in the first issue, we find out that somebody blows up this base on the moon where Uatu was, and then kills him. And pretty much some of the Avengers who have ties with S.H.I.E.L.D. go to investigate, and the original Nick Fury is even involved. And let me tell you, this is a great book. It's a lot of revealing stuff, a lot of skeletons coming out of the closet. It's just, I mean, it's amazing. All right, up next is Uncanny X-Men number 22. Now, in this issue, we find out that, the last issue we find out that, this group of X-Men decided to go out to Westchester and to confront the Wolverine's group of the X-Men, and then some things end up going wrong and all that, and then later we find out that all this time while Mystique was masquerading as Dazzler, we find out the original Dazzler wakes up. And the person that wakes her up is Magneto. And then finally, Supergirl number 32. This is a continuation of the story arc called Red Daughter of Krypton. And when we last saw Supergirl, she ended up, of course you know she's now a Red Lantern. And she ends up assisting them in going after a new Red Lantern that had just gotten a ring. And it was actually, of all people, a judge who was beaten half to death, or shot half to death rather. And they go after her and they try to lure over to her side, but then Atrocitus got in the way. And then at the very last page, we find out this being named World Killer 1 wants to come after Supergirl. Alright, that's 9 I bought, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 6,277. Well, Original Sin, great read. If you read comics, you need to buy this miniseries. It is awesome. Just when you think there aren't any more secrets, more come out. Alright, at the beginning of the show, I said that Robin, the first character to take on the mantle of Robin was Dick Grayson. Who was the last character to take on the mantle of Robin? Was it A, Tim Drake, B, Damian Wayne, or C, Stephanie Brown? The answer is B, Damian Wayne. He first became Robin in the first volume of Batman and Robin, starting with number 1, all the way through the second volume of Batman Incorporated with issue number 8, when he was murdered at the request of his own mother, Talia al Ghul. And speaking of Robin, there was something else I left out about Casey Kasem. He also played the voice of Robin from the late 60s all the way to the mid-80s. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week, episode number 29, will also be the conclusion of the Green Lantern Comicology 101 series, and I'll be discussing Kyle Rayner. Alright, I'm Victor Nunley. I'm the Comic Hero. We'll see you next week. Till then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero. And as Casey Kasem used to say at the end of every episode of America's Top 40 and Casey's Top 40, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Thanks for watching.
Shaggy is a doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved. Hang around for Scooby-Doo. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved. Hang around for Scooby-Doo. That's my pal. Scooby-Dooby-Doo.